Welcome, everyone. My name is Robin Lanzi. I am a professor here at UAB CFAR with the Implementation Science Consultation Hub. Excited to welcome you to the Community Engagement HIV Research Community Insights, Experiences, and Best Practices. I just wanted to first give you a brief overview of today's agenda. Our goal is to first do a welcome. Chris Simon from Yale and I will do a brief welcome, and after that we'll have our panelists introductions, brief insights on community engagement HIV research, and then we'll shift to a moderated discussion centering around really some key nuggets of advice around academic and community partnerships. Then we'll go into some breakout groups, and there'll be two different case scenarios that will be facilitated. We'll have note takers around community academic research partnerships and engage in thoughts on how to handle and navigate this experience. Then we'll come back and sharing back on these sort of key themes that were discussed. I'm sure that will take us to our hour. So with that, I would just, on behalf of the UAB CFAR Implementation Science Consultation Hub, welcome you and thank you on behalf of also Michael Magavero, MPI, and many of our investigators and consultants here for our team. Really thrilled and thankful to have you here, as well as see some NIH colleagues as well. And we'll turn it over to our Yale colleagues. Chris?
Good morning, everyone. As Robin said, my name is Chris Simon, and I'm an associate research scientist at Yale School of Public Health, and also serve as a qualitative consultant for the Yale's Ready Hub. I'm going to be providing a quick overview of our hub at Yale. It's called the Ready, which stands for Rigorous, Rapid, Relevant Evidence, Adaptation, and Implementation to Ending the HIV Epidemic Implementation Science. The Ready Hub leverages the expertise of Yale School of Public Health Center for Methods in Implementation and Prevention Science and SIRA, Yale Center for Interdisciplinary Research on AIDS, to provide technical assistance to ending the HIV epidemic projects from all over the country. The Ready Hub does this in collaboration with ISKI, Implementation Science Coordination, Consultation, and Collaboration Initiative, and the other implementation science technical assistance hubs like at the UAB Hub, which creates opportunities to translate local knowledge into generalizable knowledge whenever possible. I'm really happy to be here with all of you, and I'm excited for the discussion.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Love partnering with you on this wonderful opportunity to have some good facilitated in-depth discussion around community engagement. So we will now move into hearing from our esteemed panelists, and they will introduce themselves, share a little bit about themselves, and then kind of what they bring to the table around community engaged research. And so with that, I think we'll start with Chris.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Cole. I'm Executive Director at APNH, A Place to Nourish Your Health in New Haven, Connecticut, formerly AIDS Project New Haven. I'm also a Community Advisory Board member and Executive Committee member on CIRA, the Center for Interdisciplinary Research on AIDS at Yale. I have participated in several research projects with faculty at Yale, as well as other organizations throughout the state. We've had some great experiences. We've had some not so great experiences. I've had the opportunity to work on several projects with one particular faculty member at Yale who was a part of the Robert Wood Johnson Scholar program here. And she and I now do a class each spring on community-based participatory research, which is focused on a lot of what we are talking about today. So what I bring to the table is really the experience of from the community perspective and from multiple years of working on several projects.
Morning, I'm Erise Williams with Williams and Associates in St. Louis, Missouri. We are a community-based public health agency addressing minority health disparities. I have been involved in HIV and AIDS direct services, research for about 20 plus years, working primarily in the African American community. And we provide, like I said, direct services under the Ryan White program, some CDC prevention programs, and have tried to hit the gamut in terms of meeting the needs of the community. I would say that what we bring to the table, not only myself as an individual, but our agency, is knowledge of the community, which is very important in terms of research. As I'll talk about later, research is a 4-letter word in many of our communities. So, being able to give credibility to not only to ourselves, but to our partners as well is important. So I'm looking forward to the discussion this morning. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Mardrequs Harris, the Director of Community Investments with the Southern AIDS Coalition. I use he, him pronouns, and some of my experience that I bring to the table is community level research in partnership with some of the grant making that we do with Duke University's their Center for Health Policy and Inequalities Research. As an individual, my entry into HIV work was through Emory University School of Medicine on the HVTN HIV Vaccine Trials Network 505 research study that was happening in like 2010, 2011. I'm currently a community strategies group member for HPTN, HIV Prevention Trials Network. 096, that group. And so we also have funding here at our organization to where we do work with COVP and COVID Vaccine Prevention Network and HVT, and again, HVT and Trials Network. And what makes SAC unique, I think, in this conversation is, hello, Dr. Nelson, I see him putting in the chat, HVT 096, is that SAC, while we are community-based, sometimes not in the traditional way.
Hey, who did I call the wrong guardian answer? Because I thought.
Oh, okay. So what makes us unique is that we are community-based, but not in the traditional way of being a community-based organization. And we aren't academia, but we partner with academia. So what we do is we bridge the gap between the two to bring that intentional dialogue, intentional conversation to really make sure that the communication mechanisms they have between both are understood by both parties. So I think that's what makes us unique.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll have Karen.
Okay, hi everybody, I'm Karen Musgrove. I'm the CEO for Birmingham AIDS Outreach. And Birmingham AIDS Outreach is, or BAO, is a community-based organization. We are a Ryan White grantee for our HIV services. And then we also have a concentration in LGBTQ health, mental health, and research. So we have, in addition to HIV, our HIV world and our testing and COVID and vaccine world, we have the Magic City Acceptance Center, which is an LGBTQ youth center, the Wellness Center, which is a medical and mental health provider facility, and now the Magic City Acceptance Academy, which we believe is the first and only LGBTQ affirming charter school. So we bring to the table how to do unique HIV and LGBTQ programs in the Deep South, which is not always easy. And then also to what it's like to be a true community-based organization with 100+ employees, which kind of is an interesting place to be, that we've maintained this community connection as we continue to grow and learn. We do research, and Dr. Emma Kay is going to explain our research that we do. And then we also, in and of ourselves, are researchers in the organization. So happy to be here.
Thank you. Emma?
Hey everybody,
I'm Emma Kay, so I'm also at BAO, as is Dr. Musgrove, but I'm the director of our research institute. It's called the Magic City Research Institute. So we are, I think we may be one of the few nonprofit research institutes located within a nonprofit organization as well. So BAO is all about being unique and doing things, you know, that really nobody else is doing. But so at the Institute, or MCRI, we do a lot of the things that you would do in an academic institution. You know, we write grants, we write papers, we collect and analyze data, but we do it with a community-centered focus. So every grant, every project that we're a part of is very much driven by community need. We make sure that community members are part of the process, not just, you know, in an ad hoc kind of way, but in a really meaningful way. And so just to give you an example of the types of things we do, we have everything from, you know, pilot grants. Some are from UAB. We have some funding from the Alabama Department of Public Health, you know, not so much research, but demonstration projects. We have several grants from the CDC, both demonstration projects and research. We have a research grant from SAMHSA. We also have, at this point, I think we have 3 R01. So, but again, it doesn't matter how big the grant is or how small, it is always aimed at the community. All of our research is around either HIV health or LGBTQ health more broadly. And every single grant is focused on addressing the very real health disparities that we see here in Alabama, as well as throughout the Deep South. And so, you know, I started, you know, this conversation telling you about how unique I think BAO and the MCRI is. So what we bring is that unique perspective of being both a researcher and a community member. So housing research within a community organization is, I think one of the best ways to really make sure that your research is community engaged.
Thank you. Thank you all for that and sharing a little bit about you. It's really just feel honored to be in your presence and for you all to be sharing your insights with us. And Emma, you gave us a great segue really to, so what is community engaged research? And yeah, so how would you, if you were asked to share, as I'm asking you now, to share what community engaged research is, and then we'll kind of shift into a discussion around it.
Yeah, so community engaged research is really a continuum, right? So you can have engagement at a smaller level where community members, you know, provide ideas, or you have, you know, a roundtable or something, then the researchers take it from there. That's not so much my favorite model because it's less community and more research. But on the other side of the spectrum is research that's actually led or co-led by community members. So not just asking the community, what are your needs? What are your problems? You know, we're the researchers, we're going to go fix it. It's actually, you know, community members can participate in research too. It's not rocket science, right? Like everybody can do research, and it doesn't matter what your background is. We can all contribute to the process. And I think the onus is really on traditional researchers to make sure that they do include community in the process. So for me, true community engaged research, or community-based participatory research, which is more led by the community, is the model. Well, it's what we're going to be talking about today, but I also think it's the way that research should be going, because all of the problems that we see in the community can be best addressed with using the community's expertise and you know, engaging with the community in an equitable manner. So you're not just taking from them, you're also giving back. So
thank you. And I love that, in an equitable way. And again, you're giving me great transitions here with my prompt here. I will, let's see if I can share my screen here, maybe. so that it can come up for everyone to see what we are going to be going around, but essentially asking our panel members to share your thoughts on what key nuggets of advice would you give to others around what researchers need to know, remember when working with the community to create those effective, equitable community academic partnerships like Emma was just sharing. And so we'll sort of do a round robin here and maybe just kind of a few minutes, maybe start again with Chris, if that works.
Sure, happy to. I think, the nuggets that I would give are make sure that it's a respectful, intentionally equitable, and truly collaborative process. I think fully engaging the community partners from the very beginning, from the design of the study or concept, is really important. We know the community. We've, many of us who are working in community-based organizations have been here for decades and working in our community for a very long time and know our community. Many are part of the community that we serve. And really, respect that from the very beginning. I think it's really important to respect the time and adequately compensate the organization, the participants, and the clients or patients of the organization in a way that is truly equitable. It's not just a $10 gift card. I think making sure that there is plenty of time. Often, we'll have folks who reach out and they need something yesterday, and that doesn't necessarily work for us or for our participants. And we often want to say yes. The understanding, our community-based organization, unlike the organization in Alabama, is not a research organization. We don't have that expertise. So offering learning to the participants in the community-based organization is really important. And that's been an invaluable part of participating in good community-based research projects with academics for me personally and for us. And really invest in the relationship. We're putting our reputation with our clients on the line. And I loved what Erise said about research is a 4-letter word. Many of our community members do look at it that way. And if we're brokering that relationship, we want to make sure that it's a respectful relationship and that it's in line with our culture and our values. And we work hard with the academic partners that we work with to make sure that happens. So those would be my key nuggets of advice.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. And Erise, I think we're going to get a lot of out of that 4-letter word, and maybe shifting it from being the sort of 4-letter hate maybe to the 4-letter love. I'm not sure, but if there's somewhere, I'm trying to think of a 4-letter word in between, not coming to me yet, but it will, I think, through this discussion. But yeah, so Erise, what might you want to add on to that? Grow. I love that, David. Thank you. Love it. Yes. I love a good opportunity to grow for sure. If you could, I think you need to eat unmute. Thank.
Never remember how to do that. I think Chris hit it on a spot too, in terms of a lot of the points, particularly around trust. But I want to take it from the two perspectives. And that's the perspective of the community-based organization and then the community itself. So I think from the agency perspective, when we talk about partnering around research, that transparency is important because our work around research in the past has been with some of the universities, local universities here. And unfortunately, because universities are structured the way they are, when we talk about costs and expense, I know there are a lot of indirect costs that universities have to, some projects have to bear in. And so being able to negotiate or work, with the community-based organization so that most of the resources actually not only support the project, but in what we say, kind of hit the streets, in terms of doing real productive work. And so that's from the agency perspective. And also as an agency, being able to be involved in the project from the very beginning. When you're as a university, when you're writing the grant, bring me to the table. Don't bring me to the table after you got the grant and then say, we want you to do this piece and this piece and this piece. Or we need your help with this or that. But bring us in from the beginning. That's real collaboration. That's real partnership, I think. And from the community perspective, we kind of talked a little bit about this. Transparency is very, very important. Who, what, when, where, and how, and what's going to be the result. In the past, and I can only speak about my own experience just here in St. Louis, there have been research projects that have happened in our community, but we never hear about the results, or we don't get any info. There's a couple of academic folks get published, and they're happy and they just go away, but we never get the results from the work that that actually happened. So transparency and really getting, sharing, disseminating the results, and not just at a conference. Come back to our community, have a community town hall, share what happened actually, and because that is not only transparent, but it's also empowering to the community, because then they have information, they have data that they can talk about next steps, in terms of supporting their communities. Relationship building, Chris mentioned this too, just really having the relationship, not only with us as agencies who are working in the community, but with the community themselves, community members themselves, giving them key roles to play in the relation, in the research. Yeah, those are very important things, I think. So I'll just stop right there so we can share.
Thank you. Lots of good. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm
No, I was seeing Mardrequs unmute, so I just wanted to defer to you if you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I didn't. If you were gonna. So yeah, for that question, for me, advice to give researchers, always keeping at the top of mind that research should always be meaningfully rooted in the community that it's intended to serve, and that the priority population should be included from the onset of that. Creating a framework of partnership. Partnerships gives ownership to participants. They feel like they are a part of what is happening, what is going on, and treating community members when you bring them into the partnership as subject matter experts, because they are. They should not feel like second-class citizens. They should not feel like they are individuals who are just here to get me to some numbers, here to get me to some results. And remembering that no one knows a person's life better than the person who lives the life. No one knows a community perspective better than the people that make up the community. I think researchers, some additional advice is to be sure not to perpetuate stigmas. Stigmas are ever present, they're everywhere. So be sure that you aren't perpetuating stigmas as it pertains to whatever the subject is that you're going into the community for. For me, the majority of my work lies with HIV, and we know that with HIV, there are many stigmas. There are many things that show up that can be stigmatized. And affirming and valuing when there is hesitation, when there is reservation, and keeping in mind that certain communities that you go into, there's a thing that we call medical mistrust that still lingers, and it's lingered for some centuries. So you have to be understanding, and you have to know that hesitation and reservation does not mean we don't want this unique experience, this unique form of research that could potentially better our community, but there are reasons that sometimes we are hesitant because, as Erise mentioned earlier, sometimes people fly in and fly out. We don't know what you did with our data. We don't know what you're doing with our data. And so also understanding the community that you are going into, understanding the community that you are serving is not just enough sometimes to say, oh, I took a course in cultural competency, so now I know how to serve community X. Researchers, a nugget is like practicing cultural humility, which is a practice of being vulnerable, being able to understand that communities change. They are not monoliths. So while there may be a broad picture of a community, individuals make up that community. So understanding that things show up differently. So those would be my initial my initial key nuggets that I would give to some of those researchers to also make sure you're not doing to communities what has historically been done to them, valuing them when they have hesitation and reservations, not perpetuating stigmas, and meaningfully involving them as subject matter experts and not people that just have a little opinion. That also plays into the equitable pay or equitable whatever you're offering them for participation. So those would be my quick versions.
Quick, but really important and just spot on. And so thank you for that. Karen?
Yeah, I'll go next. So thank you to everybody else who's gone before, because I agree with everything that was said. So one thing I will talk about is time. And then sometimes from a smaller community-based organization perspective, just remember that we don't have these large university infrastructures. So our finance person is probably also our HR person and our contract person and our faux attorney as well. So when we're trying to deal with these big contracts or hiring new employees, it does take a little bit longer. We just don't have people working and fixing things really quickly. And I think, well, I know that sometimes the bigger universities or people you're trying to collaborate with sometimes gets frustrated with the smaller organizations. So kind of remember that in the back of your head, that we are stretched to our limit. And our foundation isn't an admin world, it's in direct service world. And so that does lend itself, we don't move as quickly as we should. And then the other one too is that I was going to give an example of a really really understanding the correct language of the research. So Emma and I just finished reviewing some questions, and one of the questions was like, the female of pregnancy or childbearing age. And so little things like that have huge implications that we put into the world. So that question's assuming that just females are of childbearing age, like the gender female. So make sure that you understand the population that you're trying to enter in and what would be triggering questions for them, and ask for help and say, can you help review these questions before I bring it to the public and stuff. I think that's really important. Most people would not understand why that would be a triggering question, but for our population, that would shut the survey down or the questionnaire down immediately and be a really big issue for our population. And then also things like the Tuskegee syphilis experiments, that is still with us. And so really understanding how history and research still has implications in our community to this day. We still have to overcome and really teach and educate individuals. What is research and what are we asking of you and what do you get in return and why is this important? Because we still have those underlying, parts of history that were so horrible. So never underestimate the power of what has happened in the past and how it's being brought into your research. So I think understanding it and acknowledging it and how are we going to work through it or educate, that really helps move the process along. So that's what I would say to that question. So
I love that. And
Yeah.
I love the time at all of the sort of different ways it can be,
Yeah.
individually, the community, the system-wide, just in general, the time and how all of that interfaces across.
Yeah.
In addition to everything you said, but
Yeah, sometimes just like one contract change, which
Yeah.
sounds so simple, can jam up our world for a couple of weeks. And it's just because, like I said, we're stretched to the max just with trying to serve our clients, and stuff like that just gets pushed to the side. So a little compassion for the community-based organization. So thanks.
yeah, no, thank you. Dr. K?
Yeah, so, I've gone last and I'm going last. And so everyone has shared such amazing nuggets of information that I don't know that I can really introduce any new ideas. I think that y'all have really covered it. But what I will do is tell you how at MCRI, one way that we have developed a protocol to ensure that the community is engaged from day one. So that's going to be my nugget of information. So we, about a year ago, we implemented, it's very simple. It's called like our concept proposal form. And anyone who's interested in researching with us, we just have a little link. It's a Google form. You fill it out. It takes 5 to 10 minutes. And you provide us with things like IRB approval, a copy of your research plan, if you have any surveys or whatever, you send all of that to us so that we can review it. And first of all, make sure that it's going to be okay for our patients or clients, that it aligns with our values here. And it also gives us an opportunity to step in and make any changes if needed. And I will say that, universities typically ask for a lot more in order to collaborate, right? You have to fill out a ton of forms. You have to go through an IRB. It's very time consuming. The things that we ask for aren't big and they aren't time consuming, but they just ensure, they really protect our clients more than anything else, but they also protect us in our time. And we typically approve concepts. Typically people who come to us are very thoughtful, and we're so happy to work with them. There are a couple where it's clear that they really don't have the client's best interests at heart. And I'm personally okay with saying that, thank you for your interest, but, sorry. And we've seen this a lot in particular with people who want to work with the children at the academy. And they are, such a vulnerable population. They've already been through so much. And we protect them in that way. So all of that to say that it's just small little protocols like this that help really protect community organizations, and that also train, university researchers to approach us in the way that we would approach them if we wanted to work with them. So I think that all goes back to, equitability and treating each other with respect, not only as fellow researchers, community versus academic investigators, but also the clients. So.
Thank you. I really appreciate the very specific example that you're sharing, and really we can all, take that and incorporate in what we do. And sometimes it's that not simple idea, but very concrete. This is what we could do. How about you try it out? And if we all just kind of operated with sort of that same level of understanding, how much better these partnerships would be. So a little sidebar conversation that was going on in the panelists. What we'll do is, since there is such amazing conversation going here, let's just keep it together, not break out and do breakout groups, given we've got 22 minutes. And as Debbie was saying, this is not a shy group, and I love it. I'm here for it. And let's all be as one here and share our thoughts. What I'll do is pull up the breakout groups scenarios, and maybe what we could do is invite our panel members to start the conversation going, and we welcome maybe any other additional conversation around the scenarios and how you might suggest moving forward. And we'll just see how this goes. This is just real-time fun, I think, together and learning from each other. So let me pull up, if I can, the slide here that shows the what were to be the breakout groups. So this is what we were going to have, 2 different scenarios. So what I'll do is maybe Lakin, if you could put into the chat scenario 1, so everybody can have that scenario, and then we'll take the PowerPoint down so we can see each other. And I'll read it and then just really open it up for a conversation around this first scenario. So scenario 1, and we'll go with this and discuss this, and then kind of hopefully have some great discussion around that, and then talk about scenario 2, and then loop back. Okay, so scenario 1 is, you are the executive director of a small community-based organization serving sexual and gender minority people living with HIV in rural Mississippi. You were recently contacted by a researcher from a local university for a potential partnership opportunity to test the effectiveness of a new intervention. You are hesitant because your previous experience with this university was not entirely positive. On a previous study, the researchers seemed too busy to fully engage in the study, and I don't think I have it all on here, and too busy to fully engage in the study and constantly missing meetings and rarely returning your calls or emails. And then after this, essentially, everyone was not so happy, and they're reaching back out. So what do you do? So now we will just open it up and, oh, good. So it's in the chat. So, all right. So rarely returning your emails or calls after the study concluded. Many of the people involved expressed frustration because the programs and services related to the study also ended. So talking about sustainability as well as an issue here. And really thoughts on that, how to handle that. Anyone want to go first? I'm happy to call on anyone. Oh, good. We got audience participation. Let's go, John.
Yeah,
Come on
I
down.
most likely would probably reach out and see if there was anybody else in that organization that was sort of working on the same type of intervention, and see if they would be like to pop in and kind of like find out from those researchers, maybe their supervisor, to see what the problem is with them, that they can't make these calls and stuff like that. Maybe there's a conflict of meeting times, call times. You know, as researchers, as yourselves know, you might say 3 o'clock, and then a client walks in at 5 minutes to 3 with an emergency.
Mhm.
Bingo. You miss out on a call because you got to deal with this emergency first.
Got it. I hear you approaching this from a very compassionate, centered approach. Yeah. I think I saw Paul's hand go up next, and certainly want to invite our panel members too as well.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Paul, and I'm the chair of the Providence Boston CFAR-CSIRC, which is the Community Engaged Research Council. And I also am a consultant for other CFARs and other community groups around community engagement. But I think for me, again, I would take the compassionate view, because I think part of the process of community engagement is also us educating the people who are doing the research and the institutions that are, because it's been my experience that so much of what we talked about today, which are all amazing and important points, they really don't understand or know. It's like researchers and community members speak 2 different languages and then two never meet, right? So I guess I would just have a conversation with them and talk about the issues that were raised in the case about not showing up at meetings, not getting back to people, whatever it was. And also just kind of do a sort of a little teaching seminar on sort of, not preaching, but just say, this is why this is important. This is why follow-up is important. So really to give them an opportunity to like answer the questions, figure out what they're doing wrong, but in a way that's helpful to them, because I think, we all look at institutions for future research projects, and, we don't want to exclude people, but we also want to make sure that they're well educated in the process. And I think that's a really important point, because, when we talk about research and community, we want to make sure that we start establishing partnerships and relationships that are bidirectional, obviously, and equitable. So I think that would be my approach first, and not necessarily exclude them, but give them the tools and the toolkit to do better the next time, so to speak.
I hear you. And lots of great, I think, one-liners here. Maybe just everybody's here for it, but the preaching, not teaching kind of thing is what I really appreciate your points there on that.
Yeah. It's actually teaching, not preaching.
What did I say? Preaching?
Preaching, not teaching.
Well,
Don't want to get that mixed up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see, Lawrence?
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm a community engagement consultant for the New York State Department of Health for older adults. And one of the first things that I would consider is not to place blame on the previous experience you had, and to lay down the ground rules for this, and to make an agreement that these certain things would be adhered to with no exception. And with that, then I would consider possibly going forward. And also, as a consumer of the Consumers Committee for the New York City Planning Council, some of the members are on. I'm so proud of all of them. Michael just spoke. That really listened to the consumers. I made a comment in the chat. COVID-19 has has affected community involvement. A lot of cabs weren't meeting and so forth. But getting back to the original question, it would be to lay down the ground rules to what the expectations are, what we want to work in partnership to, to have a favorite result. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I see also some panel members raising their hands too. So maybe we can ping pong between panel members and participants. Karen?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that when we first started 10, 15 years ago, really engaged in research with universities, and we had a lot of these problems. We didn't know who to call. We didn't know who to complain to. There was just this very mystery around research. And we didn't even know that we had like the right to have an issue with the researchers. Does that make sense? We felt like it was a very hierarchy, and we were not kind of on the same playing field, being a community-based organization. But bringing in and creating the Magic City Research Institute with Dr. K and the forum that she talked about, once that was established, we have kind of removed all of the unknowns. And it's created this, a better relationship. There's more communication. We know who is in charge. We know who's in charge of the person who's in charge. And so it really has stopped all these roadblocks and miscommunication and the fear of the unknown when it comes to research. So I would highly encourage people to kind of take this model, because it's working and it's really simple. Emma talked about it's a simple form, but it really does kind of lay everything out with all the expectations so that we're all on the same page and people don't get their feelings hurt, and how it's going to start, what the middle is, and then what the end is. And I think that ultimately is where it gets a little messy sometimes when you don't know that kind of stuff. So so that's my suggestion, because it really has changed the conversation for us looking at research from the other side of the research. So yeah.
Clarity and communicating around sort of expectations, key. So Chris, maybe, and then we'll go back to our participants.
Yeah, I love the written agreement. And, I think, as Dr. Musgrove said, we often feel like we don't have rights in that. And I've come to believe we do, and no is a complete sentence. So while this scenario goes beyond I've had a bad experience in the past, but this is what happened. If I've had a bad experience in the past with a research, it's okay to say no and not take that on. And I know we talked about that in the planning call last week that we had, where some said, we don't feel like we can say no, or, I think we can.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Let's see, Ebony.
Hi, how are you? My name is Ebony Jackson Shahid. I'm the Director of Health and Social Services for the City of Bridgeport. So everyone pretty much said something that I was going to say, but there was just one thing that I wanted to add. I think oftentimes when we come in contact with someone who's doing research, we usually find that they don't have all the resources. So sometimes they have a really good idea. They want to go ahead and do a study, but then they don't have the research team. And then usually when they're not really getting back to us and things like that, we kind of figure out that they don't have a research team or they don't have proper resources. So what we tend to do is we will come up with some sort of agreement, and then we'll either offer them some of our team members or, you know, a health research associate or an epidemiologist to kind of get them on track, or we'll connect them with a community organization that wants to do that same work so that we can kind of build a research team. And that's usually the thing that we come in contact with, is that people, you know, they'll have some funding and they'll have a researcher, maybe an assistant, but then they don't have those very important other research team members to kind of bring it together. So those constantly missing meetings and things like that, it's probably because they don't have enough team members for the research that they want to do.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate, yeah, time is coming up a lot for sure, and understanding expectations and clarity. Appreciate that so much. Leo?
Lots of great things have been said, but one thing that I feel that hasn't been said is inspect what you expect. So, you know, if there's like a research that's 6 weeks out, maybe on the second week, you might want to check in and say, hey, how's it going? What do you have so far? You know, blah, blah. And then on the third or fourth week, you know, and not wait until the fifth, sixth week to discover, oh no, they never got it. And all this time has been wasted. And now we have to do all this catch up. So, you know, I think inspect what you expect, and just kind of like check along the way. How's it going? You know, and take a pulse check.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I'd invite any of our panel members who would like to share anything, other thoughts on the scenario and our participants, and then we might move to scenario 2.
Yeah, this is Mardrequs. Just kind of like what Leo just said, what I wrote in my notes really quickly is a contract, a memorandum of understanding of some sort, but also communicating upfront that we have the ability to revisit this contract, to revisit this agreement, and active, proactive check-ins, right? Set check-ins to where we are discussing where we are, what is the progress, what does this look like, do we have this, what are payments looking like, and are payments based on deliverables, or are payments based on these things? Because I think when you put some real agreements to these things, like deliverables being met are determined if this happens or if that happens, it kind of changes the dynamic. And so that is kind of like, and that's kind of like how we do our partnership that we have. We check in sometimes bi-weekly. They work directly with our partners, etc. And when things change, the ability to have a conversation that's not scripted, that's not set on a calendar, but having that flexibility, even with everybody's crazy schedules, because we know the work we do, everybody's schedules are crazy, but just being flexible and understanding that there's a bigger picture. And there's a larger community that is depending on the success of what we are doing. And when we keep those priorities at the forefront, I think we can make everything work out.
What a beautiful perspective you have, and such a amazing heart you're leading with, for sure. Thank you. Thank you. Chris, I see your hand up. Did you? No, that was from.
I think it was still up from before.
Okay. Thank you. So we do have about 6 minutes remaining. So what I'll do is share the scenario. I'll read it, and then we'll follow up with an interesting point here. Okay, so scenario 2 is: you are a researcher with a large urban university in Mississippi. You've been working with a rural community-based organization to research the effects of a new intervention to increase PrEP uptake. The project has been challenging as your community partner often does not understand the requirements of the research project and instead complains about the challenges of navigating PrEP systems. Your team has analyzed the data from the study, but hasn't had an opportunity to share it with your community partner. You're feeling the pressure to submit an abstract on your study to an upcoming prestigious conference. With the deadline quickly approaching, you decide to submit the abstract without talking to your community partners or listing them as authors. Thoughts? Feedback? The scenario is also in the chat.
I would just say that this is a big mistake. It's, just like I said earlier, don't bring me to the table, after you've written the grant or you've gotten the project idea. Bring me to the table at the beginning and make sure that I'm involved in all those parts. And when I say me, not just me as an individual, but the community itself, bring the community to the table.
Thank you. Thank you. Emma?
I didn't have my hand raised, although I can talk.
Yeah,
You
no,
want me
sorry.
to?
Sure.
Okay. I saw that John has.
Oh, okay, good. Sorry, my screens are going around.
That's okay.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, am I stepping?
No, you go ahead because your hand was raised. It's
I was just saying, I agree with that was the, if you're going to do all this work without my input, then why make my worth feel worthless? Why bring me to that table? If you're going to do all the work yourself, just,
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was even kind of hard to read the scenario, I have to say. I almost didn't want to finish the scenario just because it is certainly that path you do not want to go down of sort of how it ended with the scenario.
No, I thought it was a very good scenario because, again, you know yourselves, you guys do a lot of webinars and you always see the same faces. You have 100 people sign up, but it's always the same faces you see. And it's the same thing like when you do these type of things, you have all these people that want to be involved, but it's always the same faces.
Yes. And I think that my point is more wanting to have that open communication, collaboration, clarity from the beginning, and so that there are those channels so that hopefully this would not get to that place in the end to where you are under that pressure to submit and it's just moving forward with not a sort of an understanding of what happens in this instance. One, you don't get to that instance, but two, if you do, how you proceed. And I think that there clearly from the conversation, lots of opportunities to kind of have those touch points along the way and engage in more of a good collaborative conversation around this. So hand raised, noted.
in real time. I just want to say that I understand this scenario from both sides, given my position, but I will say that if you really have, regardless of a particular grant and its deadline, if you really have been putting in the work with the community in this particular area that you're interested in researching, if you've done that up to that point, I think communities are more willing to quote unquote forgive you, like, well, you've proven yourself to be a really thoughtful collaborator thus far. Sorry you have this grant deadline. Maybe we'll work with you this time. So not to say that I think that this is the best way to do it, but that, this is just one point in time, right? And if you do put in the work, if you do show that you're thinking of the community and have their best interests at heart, then again, sometimes we'll make exceptions. So yeah.
Thanks, Emma. Again, I'm hearing lots of compassion and care and leading with a heart of that, and lots of so much good conversation around sort of how do you go between that one kind of 4-letter word to the other kind of 4-letter word, and grow in the middle. And I love that piece to that, and how we can grow together regardless of where we are on the spectrum of developing our academic and community partnerships, and recognizing that regardless if we haven't established one, that they're always growing and that we can all grow together in that. So we have our 1 minute warning, and we'll invite, oh, I see David, maybe one last point from David with his hand raised, and then we'll have a final thought from our panelists, and then unfortunately be the end of the hour. David?
Thanks so much, Robin. I'm David Martin, a consumer at large at the New York HIV Planning Council. And I would just think that for the last scenario, that planning is important, no matter what the grant deadline is. And if you're putting your research at risk if you don't take the time to plan appropriately. And if there's a grant deadline coming up, then you should ask for an extension on that deadline, if possible. But I think sometimes we forget about the commitment to the subjects in the research and what you're asking for them, and how the timing it takes to get this information. If you're not communicating with one another, that's a big red flag. And so I would say, don't push through. Make sure that the quality and structure and integrity of your research is there. And so to jump out, I mean, there's a agile process of iterations, looking at things as they move along. If you can't fit that mold, then stop, reassess, and ask for more time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Really good and important sort of insights on both sides again. And I think and throughout it. So I just will have a final thought opportunity for our panelists to kind of bring it home. Anyone who would like to share as we are at the top of the hour, end of the hour, however you want to approach it. So I'll go. Okay, Erise. Yes, please.
I would just probably end by saying that when we talk about community engagement, it's really a plus when we do that from the perspective of community building, because that itself, involves building relationships. It speaks to stability and sustainability and longevity in terms of the relationship between the university and the community, or whatever research, the researcher in the community.
Thank you. Any other panel members?
This is Mardrequs. I'll just say, always remember the collaboration, partnership, meaningful involvement, and that the community, they really are subject matter experts. And if we live out those things, if we prioritize those things, I think it creates it is the start of a beautiful relationship versus a relationship that has the aspects of being users to meet a goal.
Absolutely. Chris, anything?
I have nothing that I would add to what's just been said.
Thank you. And Karen and Emma?
Well, I would just say thank you to the researchers for looking at community-based organizations as equals, and in this, as we move forward with research and integrating our clients, the people that we serve. I mean, my organization has changed completely when we really looked at research as a component of the organization and created the Research Institute. We're not the same agency we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, and that's a good thing. And I love that we're part of the conversation, and that we're coming together as a collaborative partnership and involving the community and the people that we serve. So I think it's amazing, and I want to keep doing it. So thank you to everybody and in this conversation. So
thank you.
I agree with what Karen said. I think the fact that we're even having this conversation is a really good sign, and I think that, I don't know, maybe 2023 is the year that we really do community-based participatory research. I think the interest is there and the time is right. So I'm feeling very hopeful. Thanks for having us.
And thank you all for being you, and thank you for being here, and really thankful to NIH for funding the EHE implementation science consultation hubs for us to be able to present these seminars and collaborative work with Yale here at UAB. And so very thankful for this partnership. And we will be posting this recording on our websites. And so just Google UAB CFAR, and I'm sure the Yale as well, and the Ready Hub. And so we'll have those up shortly. And I don't know, the researcher in me says there's a publication coming out of this, just putting it out there, and in a collaborative way, you know. But thank you all. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and take care.